Hey guys, who's on here? Hey Angelica. Hey Jazzy. Hey Leslie. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. Yes, it is Valentine's Day. I got two of my Valentines down here. One's right there. You can't see her very well. There's one. She'll pop up every now and then. The other one's wandering around. I messed with the ruler that this was sitting on. I didn't realize it was sitting on one. Hey Shayna. Yeah, early. I have learned to go early just in case I have issues. So far lately, I haven't had issues, but you never know. Hope everybody's staying warm. We have got a ton of ice out there. I'm over this. And I'm a northern girl, and I'm over this. It's like I've fallen twice already in the last 24 hours. So bear with me here. There's some movements that don't feel so good, but I'm all right. It's just, I hate ice. Bring all the snow you want. Just leave the ice out of it. Yeah, I do need a Starbucks cup. It's so cold. It does not get this cold down in Texas ever. And that's why I moved south. It's supposed to be 9 tonight, and the wind chill is going to be negative whatever. Our houses aren't built for this, guys. I'm really worried about my plumbing. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, -5. Yeah, it has to be. It is. When I try to explain to people what cold feels like up north, I say it takes your breath away. That's how cold it gets. Well, they're finding it out there because it's that cold out there. It's that breathtaking, hurts your lungs kind of cold. We don't get that. I don't know. It's scary stuff. I'm going to give you a roundabout. I don't want to tell you exactly because YouTube, but I'm in the San Antonio area. So yeah, not. Hey, Nita, glad you could join. We're just talking about how cold it is, and you're lucky you're in California. So yeah, it's brutal here, Nita, brutal. And we've got probably 1/10 of an inch of ice over everything, everything. I'm already running out of salt. I bought 4 big containers of salt last night, and I'm down to my last 1 container already. And I'm probably going to need it unless it starts snowing. We're supposed to get 3 to 6 inches tonight. Again, it doesn't do that here. I'm used to it, but I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Yeah, Leslie, you guys have had some nasty stuff. Yeah, that pile up in Fort Worth, that was bad. Bad. I was glad I got out of there the day before because I was up there for work. Yeah, it was just nuts. It's unlike anything we've seen, Nita. It's never like this. This is like back home for me, and I'm like, you can have it. You can keep it. Who else is on? Anybody else join? We've got 8 people. That's awesome. It's awesome. Hey, Angela. Glad you could join. I know there was, Angela, were you the one that was going to sew with me? Were you the one that texted me about whether you only had light fusible and if that was okay? And I said yes. I think it was you. I don't know who else is sewing with me. Just want to know if people are sewing so that I pace myself correctly. Otherwise, I'll just go. No, yeah, Angelica, you just want to see the snow. You can have it all. You can have it all. I'm done. I spent the first half of my life digging out of snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm. I'm done. Yeah, I moved down here for a reason. Yeah. So yeah, it's I'm gonna adjust the camera once we start getting going here, I'll pull it so you guys can see. I think I'm starting to figure the camera out because I'm going to pull my sewing machine over here, and I think I'll try and pull the camera around, and then you guys can really see while I'm sewing, because moving that sewing machine around so you can see is tough. So I think I just got to do the other way. Yeah, Angela, don't you love not having the snow anymore, though? You know, I always tell everybody down here, I used to always just dread January because January was always -30 wind chills for 3-4 weeks every day. And then we would have so much snow and so much ice, and it was scary to go anywhere. You didn't want to go anywhere, but you had to get out in it. And I get down here and I'm like, you can enjoy January? January's a month you actually can enjoy somewhere? I didn't know that existed. So yeah. Okay, cool. Angelica, you're cutting your fabric. I know I was running late. Other story, reason why I'm running late is I have an Airbnb next door, and their breaker blew on the house, and so they had no heat. And they have 2 small kids. She's pregnant, and then they had a dog and a cat with them, and they're moving down here, and so they're closing on their house in 2 days. And so the owner of the house called me and said, do you mind until we can get this fixed? Well, nobody can get here because it's ice. There is ice everywhere. I mean, you can't, and it's hills and stuff. So he's like, do you mind? I'm like, no, come on over. So I had visitors from 10 a.m. until about an hour ago, because they finally got somebody over here this afternoon. Once they got in the afternoon and things kind of start getting a little less funky, people can get out on the roads a little bit. And then those that really kind of know how to drive in it can do it. It's still tough because of all the hills. That even if you can drive in it, you got a hill, you can't drive it. If it's ice, it's just the way it is. But he got over here and they replaced the breaker, and that's all it was, thankfully. And so they just had to sit and wait for the house to warm up, because it was like 35 degrees by the time the guy got over there. So yeah, I was planning on having all this stuff completely cut and ready to go. And so here I am, 5:45, trying to cut, trying to fuse everything together, going, this is not how my day was supposed to go. So yeah, but oh, I felt so bad for him. It was horrible. It was just so cold, but it was fun. It was fun to have people. I usually don't have many people over here because I'm in a semi-rural area. It's not super rural, but it's just far enough out of the way that you just don't drop by. I'm a destination, so it's all good. All good. Hey, Jenny. So yeah, it was nice. Hey, Sandy. The width. Okay, so if you're making the straps, we're gonna go over that. Here's my other little Valentine, who's going to be helping. He's inside because it's cold. Okay, so I have webbing, and so I just grabbed that. But if you don't, you can make them the finished width, and I'll show you how to do that. It's a little tricky. That's why I went with this, in case people couldn't do it. Your finished width is going to be about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. And so you probably want to cut your strips probably 3.5 inches wide by 21 inches long. And then you'll get about 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches width. So we'll go through that too. That way, if that's all you guys have, that's fine. I'll grab some fabric and do it real fast for you. But yeah, again, I went this route because it's a little fiddly if you're not used to doing things, but I do that all the time. So once you get used to it, it's no big deal. You just got to use your iron a lot and burn your fingers a few times. Ask me how I know. But yeah, you'll be okay. We'll get there. Hey, Betsy. So Angelica, let's see. When are you completely cut out then? Do you have everything cut? Are you still needing to wait a few minutes? Yeah, and I like what everybody's been posting on Facebook down here, and it's so true. Hey, all my northern neighbors, your winter is down here. Come get it. We don't want it anymore. So it's a little chilly in here in my studio, but I can't complain. But I think the temperature is, oh, it's a balmy 59 because my mini split's not able to keep up. It's doing okay, but I'll take it. 59 is better than what it is out there. Yeah, Leslie, there's another version, but I have to keep it clean for YouTube, so I couldn't say what it really said. But, you know, the other version is really about the truth. No, Sandy, no. You missed the part of the story where I grew up with this for my first half of my life. I don't want it anymore. I moved away. You can keep it. I don't want you to share that. All right, Angelica, you ready? I do embroider, Shayna. I have 2 embroidery machines. My business is not embroidery based. It's I make the clothes and then I do embroider some things and then others I don't. So I'm kind of like Amber in the fact that I make the knit clothes and the knit basics, but then I also embellish with the embroidery. You've probably seen a post where I did the tent dress last time, and it had the elephant on it. That was my embroidery for that. And I do have some bummies that have some embroidery on the tush, and I've got a few other things that are coming. I don't quite have them. I'm going to do some of these totes and embroider on them because I did some of those for a gift at Christmas and they turned out really well. I was really pleased with them. It was a different pattern than this one. It was a little more involved. So we're not going to use that pattern, but you could still embroider, and that we're going to talk about that when we get to that point here. So you'll be seeing more of it, but it's not the t-shirts, that kind of stuff. That's not my base. Mm-hmm. All right, and this light is kind of bright. There, that's a little better. It's like hitting me right in the eyes. Yep, a little bit of both. Yep, Linda, that's exactly right. Yeah, I'm trying to blend them together a little bit. So yeah, but oh no, I get the embroidery thing because I'm going to be doing what I call Scandeez Home. That's my next endeavor. And I've wanted to do this for years and years and years and years. So there's going to be, again, the mix, but there probably will be a little more embroidered pieces in there. So, you know, bedding and towels and pillowcases and pillows and things like that. So, you know, and I'm not sure, maybe the totes will end up in there. Maybe they'll end up in the regular shop. I have, you know, they can go in either place. So that one was kind of tough. Hey, Char. Sandra, where do we get the pattern? There is no pattern. I'm telling you how to cut it. And so the material list had the list of, you know, what you had to do for this. And then it also gave you the measurements to cut the pieces with. So that is the pattern there for you. And then we'll go through the rest of it here. So if you need to rewatch, you sure can, you know, you can just kind of follow along and see what we're doing here and get a feel for it, or you can try and follow along. Hey, that's cool too. Angelica, you ready? Shall we get going? So basically what we've got here, and I'm gonna pull this now so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so I have taken, and we have, this is my inner fabric, my lining fabric, and then I have my outer fabric with the fusible already on it. And I didn't do a good job of putting the fusible on because I was doing this in such a hurry. But when you do the fusible, do the top and then do the bottom, and I didn't have time to do the bottom, so I can fix it later when it's done. I'll just take I do the no where you put your hand inside, and then I take a hot iron and I and I can usually get it pretty good looking. So I will do that later, but if you guys have not done that, I don't recommend it because you will burn yourself. So anyway, 18 by 24-ish, you know, if you end up and you screw up a little bit, you can make it a little smaller. It's not a die-hard size. It just makes a really nice size tote bag for you. You can make them smaller. You know, you can do 12 by 18 if you want a real little one. But I like the, hey, Alicia, I like the bigger sizes right now. I've got plenty of the smaller ones, and so I need some that are just a touch bigger to take things with me. So I have a lining fabric, and it's just a simple cotton, just a plain cotton. And then I've got my outer fabric, which is a stripe. Again, you can see I did kind of not so good with the fusible, so I will fix that later. And then I've got my fusible interfacing. Now, it calls for a heavyweight. You don't have to use a heavyweight, but the heavyweight makes it really crisp. If you use a super lightweight, it's just going to be a little more bendy, I guess. It doesn't really matter. You know, whatever you prefer or whatever you have on hand works. But take your time. I used my heat press to put this on, and that works really, really, really nice. So if you guys have a heat press, do that. If not, your iron works just fine. It just takes a little bit longer to get it on there really good. Okay, so we're going to start with the two outside pieces, okay? So this is the outside of my outside of my bag. And what we're going to want to do, and this is why I told you to get a ruler and a pen, okay? So if you have a ruler similar to this kind, those work really slick. If you don't worry about it. You can still do it with just a regular ruler. You'll have to do a little bit more markings. I'm using a cotton, Sandra. You can use anything, really. It doesn't matter. You can use denim. You can use linen. You can use upholstery fabric. You can use anything. The interior fabric, I would keep it lighter. I would keep that no heavier than your outside fabric unless your outside fabric is an upholstery fabric. If it is, then I would go no heavier on the inside than a linen if you have an upholstery on the outside. And if your outside is like a denim or lighter, then I would stay with a lightweight cotton on the inside. And so that's what this is. You can use a cotton poly, you know, whatever you got. Again, this tote pattern is anything, and you can grab anything you've got. I just wouldn't make it out of knit. That's all I would not do. You know, and make sure it's a fabric that your sewing machine can sew. So you don't want to go so heavy that you can't get your sewing machine to sew it. Hey, Sandra, or Samantha, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I'm looking and my eyes didn't quite focus. See, anybody else came on here? Okay, so we're using this ruler, and we're going to mark with pen, or if you've got a really good strong pencil that marks a heavy line for you. You want 2-inch squares in these corners, okay? So I take this fabric, and you see how it's got 2 inches by 2 inches here. So that's going to go into my corner, and I'm going to put that corner of that 2 by 2. Actually, that seems really small. Let me see something here. I think I'm going to up that because that seems really small. I'm kind of just going off of a pattern I found because it just kind of gives me a nice little sounding board to know that I'm doing the right size. And I'm not going to screw everything up. Wow, they're staying at a 2 by 2. It seems small. Okay, let me just look at this one more time here. Oh, you know what? It's 18 by 14 rectangles. Okay, I'm going to stay with the 18 by 24 though, because I like it. And it'll be fine. It'll be perfectly fine. So if you guys did 18 by 14, stay with it. I'm doing 18 by 24 just because that's what I cut. Okay, so it's 18 by 14. So do your 2 by 2 corners. I'm going to do a bigger corner just because I cut mine bigger. But you cut yours 2 by 2. I'm doing 3 by 3 on mine, just because I screwed up. And like I told you, I was in a hurry doing this. So I thought I read 24 when it was really 14. So So anyway, your fabric is going to be setting the long way with the short way up. So you're going to have 18 by 14. Is that the way we want to do it? 18 by 14, because I'm doing the 24 by 18. 14 by 18, so 18 by 14. Yes. Okay, 18 by 14. So if I were to go to 14, it would be here. Let me just think this through for a second, guys. Since I screwed this up, I've really got to think this through so I make sure I make this the correct way. It's not that it would be bad, it's just that it would look a little long and slender if we do it the other way. So if it's 18 by 14. Yep. Okay, I'm telling you right. So 18 by 14. Okay, so when you're cutting your 2-inch square, make sure you've got your longest side going horizontal and your shortest side going vertical. So do your 2 by 2s and mark it, one in the left and one in the right. Okay. So that's what I've got, okay? And that's what yours should look like too, is in the corners, okay? Now, something there I'm feeling. So you can either use your rotary or you can use your scissors to cut those out. So we're going to cut those out right now. And take your time with this. Nobody's in a hurry. Okay, so you're going to have, and save these, because these you will use for anything. You can use these for your embroidery. You can use them for anything. So hang on to those. And I always double check that I measured correctly, because 9 times out of 10, like I just did here, I was off by ½ inch. So whenever you go to cut it, make sure you were correct the first time. All right, so we got those corners out. Now we're going to do the same thing with the lining. So you can set this off to the side for a moment. Now don't separate them. Keep them together like this. Keep your top and your bottom together, okay? All right, make sure your lining is together and lay it out the exact same way. And if you have to straighten some edges, you notice that things aren't completely straight, now's the time to do it. Don't do it later. So when I lay out, I still always completely just finger move things to make sure everything's laying good, because I've moved this a few times because I ironed it a few, cut it a few, re-ironed it again. So it's off by just about 1/8 of an inch right now. So I had to move it back. So now that's what people are doing when you see them doing that. They're just trying to line their edges up really nice. So we're going to do the same thing on this. Cut those 2 squares. Mark them. I did it again. I don't know why I keep going that ½ inch extra. Okay, 3x3. You guys cut 2x2 because yours are smaller, unless you're doing the 18x24 like I am. And if you're doing that, then go ahead and use the 3x3. But if you're doing the 18x14, use the 2x2. And if you get to the corner, like I usually come up to these and I've just got to snip just a little bit. I don't want to go crazy with my rotary cutter and cut too far. All right, so again, save your pieces. These are always great little scraps for embroidering. All right, and then those of you that bought the canvas, yeah, it's kind of a what do they call this? I can't even think. It's kind of a corded rope for the handles, but it washes really nice. I love using this stuff because if it does get dirty, then it's really not a big deal. But if you got this, these are 21 inches long. If you're going to make the handles out of your fabric, and you missed earlier that I was telling them that it's 21 inches long and then 3.5 inches wide, and you'll need 2 of those. And we'll go over how to do that. It's a little more fiddly, so if you don't feel comfortable, this is super easy to use. All right, I'm going to grab my sewing machine, bring it over here. And if you guys have pins, make sure you grab some pins as well. Let's see if I can move you guys a little bit here. Let's bring the camera up so you can see what I'm doing. See what everybody's saying. Where did I get my cutting mat from, Nita? I got it at Hobby Lobby. It is a June Taylor. And and I know the 40% coupon's going away with those guys. So if you still have the chance to use a 40% coupon, I use them on these. And I'm going to miss that because that's what I always used them on, was the cutting mats, because they're so expensive. So otherwise, you can probably grab them at Joann's and use the coupons when they have them there too. But this one I think was 32 before the coupon. And then the others are higher than that yet. I think they're like 50 or so. So yeah, those coupons were everything for that. That's okay, Tasha. I'm glad you're listening. Glad you're joining us. What size is the mat? It is 24 by 36. It's a good size. I love it. And then I got a smaller one, buddy. We don't need your camera appearance today, okay? I know you want to meet all the people. But I've got a little one too that I bought at the same time. And it's a small one. It's upstairs actually, so I can't show you, but it's a little bit bigger than my ruler. And it's perfect for when you've just got to cut little things and you want to just grab it and go away from your work area. Then you don't have to like uncover a section or whatever, you know, it makes it a lot easier. So I usually always have 2 or 3 on my table. Yeah, totes are fun, aren't they, Nero? You can never have enough totes. And they're an easy project and they make great gifts. Everybody seems to love them because they need them too. Okay, so trying to clean my space here so we can do some of this. So I have pins, and if you guys want to pin, I always pin my lining, but my interface top doesn't, I never pin it because it's stiff and it's hard to pin, and it seems to stay together okay for me. And for those of you wondering, I'm sewing on a Janome MC 9500. It's a combo sewing embroidery machine. I've had this girl for almost 2 decades, and she's pretty awesome. I love her. She is my workhorse. I go through a lot with this one, and she gets me there. So I'm setting my stitch at about a 2.4 or a 2.6. 3 is usually a number you'll see a lot. I think it's sometimes a little too long for some projects because you need a tighter stitch to hold seams together a little better. Yeah, the self-healing ones are nice, Angela. Okay, so I'm going to pin both edges and the bottom. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And I always pin pretty far out so I don't have to remove my pins as I'm sewing. That just slows me down. Now, if you have a serger, you can use a serger on this as well. Not necessary, but you can. And don't forget, when we go to sew these seams, you always want to back stitch when you start and when you stop. And that's just, sometimes people forget to tell you that, and we're trying to be mindful of those little things. Buddy, seriously, buddy, I know. Come on, go on, go on, go on. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's inside because it's cold. Poor little guy. Hate for him to be outside in this. So yeah, take your time to pin. And again, that's another time you can straighten things out. If something's not cut 100% square, go ahead and straighten it out. And then just make sure that if you take a little bit off of one edge, you do so on the top as well. What's that, Sandy? You didn't know needed to be done when sewing. Yeah, this is a great size, Leslie. No, bud. No, no. Go on. I know you want to be right in the middle. I get it. Go on. Go on. No, no. Go on. Go on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this because I'm not going to pin my top. Oh, back and forth stitch at the beginning, the end. Yes, Sandy. I know Gabby was saying the same thing, and that's where we kind of decided, oh, we got to start telling people that, because she's like, nobody ever told me. And she goes, I wondered why things were coming apart. And I was like, oh, no. So, yeah, it's an oversight, I'm sure. So, all right, so we're going to take about a 1/2 inch seam on these. And so mine has somewhat of the ones in here. It doesn't really have, does it have a half? No, it does not. It has a 5/8, so I know that if I just sew just a little bit to the left of the 5/8, I'm at a half. So if you need to measure it and mark it, because maybe you aren't certain or you don't have that, if you're going to measure it from where your needle is, so you can put your needle down and see where it starts, and then you've got the point to start when you're measuring. So if your needle's down, measure from the needle over and then find your point. And some people put tape there. You can put, masking tape or something. Some people even put polish there, a line of polish to keep it nice and bright and easy to see. Mine has markings, and so I just kind of guess a little bit here. But wherever you go with it, just remember all your seams have to stay the same. So that's the one thing about totes. They're kind of forgiving, so they're pretty good to start on. If you're off just a little, just be off a little on all of it. It's all good. Just keep it all the same. And if you get done and you don't know what you did, then measure it real quick and see how wide your seam is and do that on all the others. Yes, it may. Yep, I've got one. Some machines, Sandy, I think you push the button and it does it automatically. Mine, I have to hold down the button for it to go backwards, and then it'll do it, and then let go when it's time to go forward. So but what I do a lot of times too is I'll start and go forward, then go back and go forward. Other people will start up here and then go backward and then go forward. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you do it somehow. So we do each side. Just try not to stick yourself on those pins. I've done that more times than I care to remember, because it's very painful when you're sewing and you don't even realize you're coming up on a pin like that, and then it gets you. All right, so this one doesn't trim threads for me. I get so spoiled by my brother machine. This one's just old enough that I didn't get that feature on it. This one's a little bit like the PE800 in the fact that it has the 4x4 and 5x7 capability only. And then it's got the black and white screen like the PE770. I didn't pay for the upgrade. I could have gotten a color screen. Now I wished I would have, because this black and white makes me crazy when I try and use it to embroider with. But man, this thing is great for embroidering. It's a dream. It saves me so many times when I'm having problems with getting something done. And invariably, the minute, if I'm relying on my other machine to get that done, I'll guarantee you something happens. And then I got to make sure that I can do it over here. So I always make sure I've got the embroidery files in both formats, and hoping I'm not sewing on my other one in a 6x10 format, because then I'm really stuck if I can't finish it. Okay, I'm going to remove my pins real quick, and then I'll do the top. I just want to get these out before I stab myself. I'm kind of accident prone these last couple of days, so I'm just trying to avoid anything else that can happen. Blood on a tote bag is never pretty. Carmen, are you here? Carmen has got the coolest shirt she's going to be putting on site. I saw it this morning, you guys. Oh my gosh. It is adorable. And she's going to make it in adult sizes too. It's perfect for both. Okay, so do the exact same with your top fabric. I'm going to hit the camera here, so I got to fold myself over a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to hit the camera. All right. I got to back you out until I get this one done because this is the stiff one. That wind is just nuts out there. I knew that was, sorry guys. Oh, about how my weekend's going. All right, and then I'm going to do the bottom. So again, those of you that are joining late, I accidentally cut my sample too big. So mine's going to be a little bigger than the one that I told you. So that's why if yours looks smaller, you're right. You did okay. Hey, Divya. Oh, cool, Carmen. I can't wait. I was just looking at it earlier, so you must have just sent it to me. Stuff is going to keep hitting the camera. Okay, so the next part, it's not hard, okay? So it's just different. You guys have not done that. We're going to make the corners. Now this, if you've got clips, is probably going to be easier, but pins will work too, so don't worry. So let me kind of really show you guys how we're going to do this, because I'll show you a couple of times, okay? So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to try and go press your seams open. So I'm probably not going to take the time to do that because that would take me a little while, take me away from you guys. But you want to press your seams open like that, okay? So you'll go over to your iron and just take your time. And the easiest way is really to press like this on one side. So you pull it back and press, and then you flip it over and you'll press this way. So this one will already be under, and then you'll press this one. So that's how you want to press your seams. And it's so easy. So I'm going to kind of just finger press these a little bit. Okay. And you'll do that with all your seams, both your lining and your outer fabric. Okay. All right, so once you've done that, you're going to open this up and you're going to take this top seam here, so this is the side, and you're going to take the bottom seam here and you're going to put them together. And what it does then is it creates that bottom part of your bag. And so it'll look like that, okay? Back up a little bit here. So I'll go over that one more time. So you've got your bag like this. My machine is in the way. And drop you guys. I am not doing so good today. Okay, so you've got like this, okay? So you're going to take your side seam like this and open up your bag, okay? So it's like this, and you can see that that hole is right here, all right? So here's your side seam, and here's your bottom seam. And you put right sides together so your outside fabric is together, and you match up that seam. And then it ends up looking like that, okay? So I'm going to pin this. And I always pin that seam first because you don't want that seam to move. So like that and like that. This is where I put my first pin. And then I'll go and pin, if I'm going to pin some more, I'll pin another one over here and pin high because you don't want to have to take it out. And I'll pin another one here. So I'll have about 3 pins. I think I have to move that one up. I think I put it down too low. So there you go. And then we're going to do that on the other side as well. So if you finger press, or I'm going to finger press. You guys can use your iron. And the bottom. The nice thing about finger pressing with fusible is it tends to finger press nice because it's thick and stiff, and it'll take that. Okay, so we've got the one end set pinned. We're going to do the other end. Again, same thing. Open it up so you got your hole right there. Take the side seam, open it up. Take your bottom seam, open that up. Match them up so that everything comes together like that. And then pin it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this one, and then I'll do the lining as well. Got stuff jumping off my shelves at me here. I really need to reorganize right here if this is where I'm going to keep working, because I keep picking that same stuff up off the floor. So it's sticking out just far enough. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to try and pull you guys more here. Same seam allowance, okay? So 1/2 inch, and you're going to do your backward and forward. Now, when you get to the extra seam, I tend to want to go a little slower. I don't necessarily go super fast at that point. You can move your seam if you're going too fast because it's a little bulky. And your machine may take a second longer to get through it. But yeah, make sure you remember to back stitch on those front and on the first and the ending, especially on this one. And on this one, I'm going to probably come back and trim that seam just a little bit too, so it's just not quite so thick. So the other side. Yeah, I know, Divya. I'm having a weekend, Divya. I'm accident prone this weekend. It's just been horrible. So I'm not shocked that I keep knocking that camera over. It's one of those weekends. Yes, Carmen, go post it real quick. It's amazing. Divya, I was fortunate that my mom taught me everything when I was very small, and she was a sewist and actually worked for an interior designer for a long time. And then she made all my clothes, and I just grew up around it. And then my uncle owned a sew and back store, and I know a bunch of you guys have heard this story. He owned a sew and back store, so he sold sewing machines and fixed sewing machines. So it was just kind of a meant to be kind of thing. So I'm just opening these seams just a little bit, just going to finger press them a little bit. I will go back and iron this better later on. I just don't want to take the time with you guys. I don't want to make you wait. So, all right, we're going to do the same thing over here with the lining, okay? So I'm going to go over this with you again. And I know it's kind of one of those things where we're doing this a lot, but I know that the first couple of times you do it, it's like, am I doing that right? Am I doing that right? Am I doing that right? And then you're like, oh, it's not lining up. What did I do wrong? So I want to keep going over it so you guys can keep hitting pause and returning back if you need to. So finger press both sides. And I would use a sewing machine and iron to do this, guys. If I were you, don't just finger press. I'm doing this just because of time. And then finger press the bottom, or so press the bottom. And then open it up. Find your hole. Take your side seam and your bottom seam. This one's harder to see. Match them up. Man, that's not the orange that this is. This is actually a really pretty coral. It's not that Halloween orange that it looks like it's showing on my camera. Put your pin in there. And then this is the part where I think it gets a little tricky for you the first time. Make sure you straighten, because this is a lighter weight. The lining is lighter weight. It doesn't have that fusible on there. So it's going to take a little extra time to stand back and just kind of straighten all that out and get it to lay out nicely. And then you can pin it. When you're using that fusible on that top lining, it just kind of does what it's supposed to do for you. All right, let's do the other side. Yeah. And I'm dealing with a sprained wrist too, so that's why I look like I'm doing these awkward movements. Yeah, not having a good weekend, guys. So yep. All right, so there, finger press that part. Enough that I can do this. All right, open it up. Find your hole. Take your side seam, your bottom seam. And I don't know about you guys, but I swear my fabric tends to find every little tiny piece of anything within the near neighborhood around me and puts it on the fabric when I'm sewing. It never fails. All right, and then pin those two together. Straighten out your fabric a little bit so that you can get these edges nice and just keep everything completely in a straight line. It's kind of an awkward feel, so don't fight it. Just kind of play with it. And the first couple of times, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's all good. You'll get it the next time around. All right, so let's sew. Again, same allowance. Get my pin over far enough. Wants to take it with it. And back stitch, front and back. And this will happen, don't worry about it. Sometimes when, even though I have it pinned, that'll still happen right here. You see how it caught the fabric and it didn't keep it open? Why that's not focusing. That'll happen once in a while. It's not going to affect anything. If it bothers you, you can rip it out and redo it. That little stuff I don't worry about. It's at the bottom of the bag. Nobody's going to see it. Yeah. Divya, I was telling everybody I'm so over all this ice and snow. We're not even having the snow yet. We're having an ice storm down here. And so unusual for this area to have that. And I told him, I said, I'm so done. I left that stuff at home when I moved away and I've got it again. I mean, we're going to have a low of about 9 tonight. And I've got 1/10 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch of ice over everything out there. It is just, oh, I just don't like this. I'm waiting for the snow to happen. It's supposed to snow 3 to 6 inches tonight. We don't get snow. This is why I moved here. We don't get snow. But okay, at least it'll make the ice not so slick. I'll take that. I didn't put my pins far enough out. That's what you're seeing me do. Okay, so here's the lining. So you'll see you've got these nice little pockets. So your end, and if you forget to trim, it's not a big deal. It's on the inside. Nobody's going to see it. So you've got these. This is what your bottom's going to look like on both pieces. So you could actually, since you've got the fusible one, you can actually stand it up now. And like I said, those of you joining late, I cut this the wrong size. Again, welcome to my weekend. Not going so well. I made mine 18 by 24 instead of 18 by 14. I didn't read my pattern too well, but it will stand for you guys. So that's kind of nice when you start seeing that it's coming together. It's really cool. All right. Now I've got to move you guys back just a little bit because the next part, you've got to really be able to see what I'm doing from a little further away. All right, see if there's any questions here so far. Every single seam, Leslie. Yep, I do. Yep. Yeah, it feels like 25 there below. I believe it. Earlier today, it was 20. 27, but it was so cold. It was really, the thing said felt like 10, and I believe it because it was one of those take your breath away colds. So yeah, it was, yeah, not good. Yeah, Leslie, trust me, that was my weekend. I just saw your emoji up there. I have a sprained wrist and a jacked up shoulder because of this weekend. So it's not been fun. Not been fun at all. So let me see here. I may have to move this a little bit so you guys can see this a little better. There we go. Okay. So we're going to take, and probably the best place, I'm going to have you guys do this instead. You'll see this a million different ways, but since I'm teaching you how to do this, the easiest way is probably this way to begin with. So we're going to do, I'll come back to how to make these in a moment, but I'm going to put these on now. So if you guys have the webbing for your handles, then you can skip that other step. But otherwise, I'm going to show you real quick how to do the other way as well if you just want to use fabric handles, but they are a little fiddly. So I really recommend to do this if you're not feeling real comfortable with doing the other. So you got to measure from your seam to your other seam, okay? So let's measure what that is. And then we're going to figure out where to put these. So, of course, mine's an odd number, huh? And it's not a good one. Okay. So you're going to want to figure out about a third, and a third. And so at your first third, so mine's going to be, okay, so at your first third, you can see I'm going to, this is the top, okay? So here's my top. The edge starts, and it seems kind of counterintuitive because you're like, well, they're going this way. I know. They're going to go this way to start, okay? So we're going to pin that where that first third measurement is. So I'll pin it there. And then I'll go back and measure where my other third is. And we'll put it, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so this is how it's going to look when you pin it, okay? So you want your handle going down with your cut edges at the top because the bottom of my bag is here, and this is the opening, okay, right here. Since you pin the first one on, that's great. Now you know where to put your other one because you're just going to put it on the other side exactly opposite. So if you got it here, then you just measure it. You just straighten your fabric out. So it's there, okay? And then you just open it up and pin it. You're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna loop it. And that's why you always wanna check it when you are done. And I'll show you how to check it to make sure that you didn't twist your strap. Because you won't know you twisted it until you go to pull it completely out, and it'll be a little late then, okay? So if you notice this, look at how it does it there. So I can flip it like that. It would be real easy to take this and twist it and turn it so that it would lay flat. You don't want it that. You want it to have this little, like this here, so that when you go to pull them up, and that's how you can check. When you pull them up, they lay nice and flat up here, and then they lay right here. So I always get that screwed up the first times I did it. So just take your time and really think it through. If you're having a hard time, always just stop, pick it up, go, okay, is that right? Is that wrong? And, you know, if you screw it up the first time, it's still usable. So what I like to do is I like to sew these on. I just do a stitch. I don't necessarily back stitch this one. This is more just a tacking stitch so that I've got them where I want them to be. And I don't want to go too far down because I'm gonna hide this in my seam. So I'm gonna pull this right here so you guys can see I am right there on the edge. You see that? Right on the edge is where my tack seam is going. So I've probably got maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch seam at the top. Nothing more than that because my seams are going to be 1/2 inch, so I'll lose it in that. Sorry. That's my bad wrist, so I couldn't stop it from falling. All right. So I'm just going to tack that on real fast. Something's making a funky noise. What's going on? All right. I decided to eat my thread. No big deal. It happens. We'll just do it all over again. So I undid my bobbin here. See, it happens to everybody, guys, not just you. It happens to all of us. There we go. All right, I'm just going to do that one more time. I got most of the way across. I could let it go, but I'm not going to. Just going to redo it. So all I'm doing is just tacking that down to stay. So I can take the pin out. Doing that the right way. Let me think if I'm doing that the right way. Hang on, let me think. I might have put that on the wrong side. Yeah, I did. I put that on the wrong side. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to redo that. Those need to go on the inside. Seam ripper. And that's the little stuff that I screw up too. I forget that it has to go in a certain area. It's going to be done the same way, just on the inside, and that's where tacking this makes it easy to come up. I can just cut right through it and redo it. Easy enough. Okay, so let's put this on the inside. So just transfer it. Yep, that's right. I knew better. And I'll show you when I'm done so that you guys can get it the right way. Do this every time. I swear, I put the handles on and I always screw it up the very first time. And I catch myself when I'm doing that very first seam. So you can see how I'm measuring where they're at. That way they'll be even. Okay, so they are on the inside this time, where they're supposed to be. Not on the outside, not on this side, but they're on the inside of the bag right now, okay? So I did the exact same thing, just on the inside. So you can go ahead and do everything I told you to do. Just make sure you put it in. Yes, Carmen, it is. It's very useful. That's another reason why I'm glad I made mine just a touch bigger. The smaller ones are fine. I've just got a bajillion of those smaller ones, and I don't have as many of these big ones. I mean, these big ones are great for the beach or a quick weekend trip, and you've packed a bag, but you need like a bag in the car too, or a carry-on onto your plane or something. They're great for that. They're good size. And they're washable. That's what I really love. Take out those. Do the other side. And a lot of patterns won't show you to do this, and I wish they would, because this is truly a step for a beginner. And then as you progress, you want to keep doing it because you got used to doing it. And then if you do just the pinning, I never have any luck. I still want to tack them down so I know that they are in there solid. Because there's too many times when I pin, I might get it in just a little crooked, and then it really looks funny. Where if I've tacked it, I know it's straight and it's not going to be crooked. She was going to Target, really, Carmen? And so she was having a shopping spree? Oh my gosh. That's hilarious, Carmen. I'm so glad you came and joined us. I miss you. Okay, so those are tacked. So they're on the inside. And here's another way I can check now. I can pull it and see. Oh, yeah. Yep. Because if I always check one more time, because now's the time. It's still real easy, like you saw, for me to go and take one off and straighten it out. So right now, this is going to be a really nice big bag. So if you guys want this bag size, again, this is the 18 by 24, where the ones on the measurements I gave you were 18 by 14. So anyway, all right, now we're going to put the lining in. Okay. So this is where we could do this several ways, okay? And I'm going to show you this one way. I'm going to tell you about another way as well, but I'll show you this way. And they're both right. There is no wrong way. And you guys can figure out which way works better for you. So, all right, I'm going to pin this in 2 spots, and then I'll show you what I'm doing, because it's just fiddly enough still. Am I doing this right? Let me think about this for a minute. I don't normally do it this way, but I kind of want you guys to maybe do it this way this first time. So I got to think twice about what I'm doing here. make sure it's going to come out right. All right, I don't know why my brain is not working right now. Hang on. This is where I lost my afternoon, and I was going to get all this completely done, and I was not expecting to lose my afternoon. So, all right. Not this on the outside. This on the outside. Okay. I'm going to stay down for a minute. Hang on. If my arm was cooperating, it would help. I'm over here going, ow, ow. I hope you guys aren't hearing me. It's so funny. See, and that's the one nice thing, though, about totes when you're making them. You can sit and work through the problem yourself without really having to go to the part of sewing and figure it out. This way. And the other good thing too is if you sew it wrong, you rip it out, you do it again. You just learn. I haven't done it this way in so long, guys. That's why it's kind of throwing me a little bit. And I'm just going to show you the other way because I can't figure it out right now, and I don't want to waste any more time. Okay, the other way would involve not sewing this bottom seam all the way. And so I can go and take some of this out. That's not a problem. But you can take out about, I would sew probably about 1/3 and 1/3 on the ends. Yeah, I know the couch in the sewing room is amazing. It really is. I cannot tell you how many times I just come down here and just plop. It is so cool. So this is the way I normally do it, and I don't know if one's way is easier or another. For some reason, I was thinking the other way was going to be easier, but I can't figure it out at this moment. So we're just going to go do this, and I'm just going to rip out a little bit of this. And we will, the last part that we will do then is we go and we sew this shut in the bottom and shove it down. And that can be fiddly for some people and not so much for others. So I'm not too worried about it. And normally on this one, yes, you will sew back and forth at the ends, like I told you earlier to do. but I'll catch it in my seam. So go ahead and just open up the bottom. If you are following with me and you did that, just go ahead and open up the bottom so you've got a hole right there in the bottom. So here's your bottom. And I sewed from there to there and from there to there before we did the corners, okay? That's what I did. So now, again, I gotta remember which way this goes. Let me cheat. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look at the pattern that I'm loosely following and let them tell me which way we do this here. Okay. Inside out, inside out. So, all right. So you got you've got this inside out like this. So your inside of your fabric is there. And you've got this also. So your seams are on the out like this, okay? So we're going to put this inside like this. Is that how they're doing it? Why does that look like? Yeah, we've got it. That does not look right. I'm doing here. Why is this kicking my butt? I should have did this ahead of time. Because it's not hard. There, that's what it is. Okay, that's why my brain wasn't working. Okay, let me put it in and then I will show you. My brain was looking at the picture and it was not computing what the picture was telling me. It's Sunday night. All right, we got it. We got it this time. This is where also having your seams pressed comes in really nice because I'm fiddling with opening them. Okay. So you're going to take your bag and set it like this, and your lining is going to be turned. So you have got, make this go away here. You have got your seam here. So it's like this. Here's your handles. And then your inside, your seams are going to be facing in. So you've got right side of fabric to right side of fabric, okay? That's what you're trying to do here. And we're going to pin all of this together. Now make sure you tuck your handles in between the lining and the outside, okay? My brain is still saying something's wrong. So I'm going to pin this and test it just to make sure. And my brain is still saying, nope, 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 you got something wrong here. So let me just quickly test it here. Let's see what we got. And so, yeah, the pinning, you can, that way, I'm going to show you, this is a test too, so I know I'm doing it right before I go and sew everything together. I got short girl problems with this table. I'm not tall enough to stand up and stand above this bag enough to mess with it. Need to be a couple inches taller. And this just takes a little bit of time because your fabric is kind of really loose until you can really get it wrangled. So take your time to do it. And I can hear it. Must be snowing. I can hear it. I hope that's snow and not more sleet. I'm so done with this ice. All right. So, yep, it's right. It's right. Okay. So I've got my handles on the inside in between the two pieces of fabric. This is my outside fabric turned inside out, so you can still see my facing. This is my lining fabric, and so the right sides of the fabric that you want to see are both touching each other, okay? I'm going to put another pin there, a gap. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just use our 1/2 inch seam on this and sew this all the way around. If you end up having a gap, and I don't know, you're not supposed to, but I swear every time I make these, I end up having just a touch of a gap somewhere where I've got a little too much fabric. I try and catch it just in a seam somewhere, and it just is what it is. You know, I maybe don't get my seams in the right spot every time. My seam allowances may not be the same, and that might be what hits me, is I don't probably take enough time. But that's what I'm doing right here, is I'm sewing right along the edge. So right on this edge up here. Right here is where I'm taking my 1/2 inch at the very top. And don't forget to backstitch. And if you take a little less than a 1/2 inch, the tote cops aren't going to come get you. And when you get to your handles, take your time there, because it is a little thicker. So I use my hands to kind of help guide it and pull just a touch. You see I'm pulling here, and that's because I'm trying to just carefully go over that handle and catch it. And also, too, sometimes it's my pinning that'll cause that gap. And I notice that when I'm doing it right now. And this is where I always stab myself. It never fails. End up having a little extra fabric. I've got a pucker. It is what it is. Now, if I was making this for a client, I would probably stop and just pull in my side seams so that it wouldn't be having this gap going on, and I wouldn't have a pucker, but it's just for me, so I really don't care. It's fine. bothers me that much, I'll take it apart and redo it. See, it gets stuck on those handles a little bit. I'm sure you saw that. That's where I'm pulling just a little bit to get past it. If you have a walking foot, now is probably a good time to be using that. And that helps a little bit with this too. Stabbing myself. So if you leave the bottom stitched closed, the other way you can do it is leave an opening up here along the edge, and then we'll flip it and then you turn it. That was what I was going to show you, but my brain just wasn't computing with getting inside in the right place. So I had to back up and do it the other way that I'm somewhat used to doing. So there are two ways to do this. If you forget and sew the bottom shut, it's not the end of the world if you don't want to go and rip it out. You can even leave a side seam on the inside open and turn it that way. And that'll all make sense when I show you how I'm going to close that bottom seam. You just do it the exact same way except to be on the side. Stabbing myself. It was out of there. And if you guys are asking questions, I'm sorry. I'm trying to finish this up here. Hug the seam feet. Did you like that, Carmen? Hey, Adiani. You could have kept this weather up in Michigan, please. All right, I'm almost to the end here. We're not going to look at all the puckers, right, people? We're just going to ignore those for right now. Okay. And make sure you get all your pins out. So when you're done, then it's completely all sewn shut on the top, okay? So you're looking at this going, now what? Now what? Because it's all completely sewn shut except for this bottom, right? Well, you go and pull your bag through the bottom. So you flip it through that seam. And since there's a hole in there, and it doesn't matter where your hole's at, whether it's at the top, like I was trying to show you, or whether it's at the side, or whether it's at the bottom, you can get your hand in there and pop out your corners real nice before you sew it shut. So everything, and you know, you can also iron this at the end. Like I was telling you, I'm going to end up doing where I take my hand and put it on the inside, and I'll probably get like a hot pad and put on my hand, and then I use my iron, and I'll just kind of iron it that way. I can do some of it on my ironing board as well. And then the spots that I absolutely can't get, I'll do it the other way. All right, so your bag should be like this. So here's my lining, and I can't lift my hands up, sorry guys. And there's the bottom, and see my handle right here on each side. So here's the bottom, and this is the finished part, okay? So here's your seam. And you can see now, there's my seam, okay? So I sewed from there to there, and from there to there. So then what I'm gonna do is go like this. I'm gonna pin that so I can show you guys a little better. And I got some threads because I went back and took that out. At least you guys see I screw up too. So don't feel bad if you do. We all do it. Okay. So I've got, and I pinned that together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and we're going to sew from where you back stitched over there and sew it shut. And it's going to be a real skinny seam to past where you back stitched over here. You can take it a good ways. If you can't remember where you back stitched at, you can go quite a ways over. It's not a big deal. Since I ripped that, I've got a tail out of that. So I'm just going to take, put it here, and we're going to do a real skinny seam. And we are almost done. We got one more thing to do. And I'm going to move the camera over here and show you exactly how skinny I'm talking. Okay, so bear with me if this makes you sick. So you see how skinny that seam's going to be? See where my needle's down and how little of a seam I've got? I'm barely on the edge. So you just get yourself a visual point and keep it as skinny as you can and as close to that edge as you can, but stay on the fabric, okay? So I'm going to move this camera back. Don't get sick with me. All right, and you remember to backstitch. See how close that is to the edge? I've got a little hair there from when I ripped my seam out, but see how tiny of a seam that is. So now what we do is you've closed up your bag. So let's finish turning it inside out or right side in. So you push your lining in. And what I would do is I would go over and iron it and iron this down real nice. So you turn your edge over and you get this so it's really nice and crisp, okay? And I'm just going to finger press. And then we're going to top stitch it. So that's where if you did leave the opening up here and you flipped it, you would close it with the top stitch. And if you did the side seam, for some reason you left the side seam open, which you can easily do, and you turned it that way, then you would finish the side seam like we did the bottom seam. So, all right. And keep your handle to the inside when you top stitch. And it doesn't really matter where you start. And I would probably top stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the top of the bag. And then we'll talk about some other things here in a minute. Let me do this real fast. And if you want to get really good at this and use striped fabric, you match your stripes too when you cut it out. I didn't do that. This also gives your handles even a little bit more stability and a little bit more strength. So you've got them sewn in there like 3 times. So when you go to carry something that's a little bit heavier, it's not pulling on your seam quite as bad because you've stitched it in there a few different times. That's usually a really good idea. You want to make sure that your handles get in there good and secure. Almost around in the home stretch. A lot of times too, when I get around, I like to trim my tails before I come back over them. That way they don't get caught up in that seam I'm stitching. All right. There's your tote bag, guys. So it's nice and finished at the top. And you can do a second one if you want. So you can do a second seam if you wish down below. And just kind of a decorative thing. But here's your tote bag. So now let's talk about ways to make this your own, okay? So what I would do on this is I would love to monogram it. So you could embroider a monogram right here. Or if you wanted to do like we do with the shirts and stuff, where you put the applique on with their name. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can add embellishments. You can do anything. You can put a pocket on here. So you would just cut and place the pocket on the outside, and that would be the very first step you would do before we did any of the other steps. So you can put pockets on the outside, pockets on the inside. So this is just your basic tote, and you can go and just jazz it up however you want. You can make these out of vinyl. You can make them out of leather. You can use leather handles, everything. So that's all the ways to jazz that up. Now, I know I was going to tell you guys how to do those handles real quick. So let me grab some fabric, and I'll give you a real quick lesson on how to do that. But anyway, I love this. It's going to be, once I get it all nice and pressed out, it's going to be a nice little summer tote for me to just carry around. And if I ever decide to get to the beach, I'll go to the beach with it. So, let me find some fabric here. Let's do this. I'm going to use this. This is just leftover that I had from my lining. Make sure you guys have any questions. Yes, it is backed with a fusible interfacing, Dawn. It's on the outside fabric. Yep, it's a medium weight. You can do a heavyweight. You can do a lightweight. It just depends upon how sturdy you want your bag. And let me talk to you rather than you seeing just my hands. But you can use the interfacing. The smaller the bag is, probably the lighter the interfacing you want to use. The bigger the bag is, the more stiff you want your interfacing, just because you want to give it some structure. If it's too light, it gets a little flimsy on you when they're really, really big. So just remember that. And, you know, it's okay if you do it and it's not 100% as structured as you would like. You know, it probably just becomes one that you easily just carry some stuff in and throw it in the washer all the time, and it washes up real nice for you and everything, because it's a little bit less structured. That one's got probably a medium weight is what that one is. The heavyweight I used on ones for Christmas gifts, and they literally, you set them there and they're solid. They just stand up. They're really nice. They have good thick outer walls to it and everything. So it was nice. So if you're going to embroider on those, you want to do that first also. You don't want to do it once it's finished. So make your life easy on that. Cut your pieces out, then go ahead and embroider. And then I would do the interfacing first, then embroider on it, because a lot of times you may not have to put stabilizer on if you're using a heavier interfacing. But if you're using a lighter one, I would always probably put a second piece of stabilizer on that. And that way, you know you've got it covered, and it's gonna stitch out really nice for you. But realize you don't have to use a real heavy stabilizer, because you've already got that interfacing on there taking up some of that for you. And then go ahead and start putting it together. Now, if you want to do the handles the other way, I'm just looking to see if I've missed any before I keep going. That was actually, it does look like a duck cloth or a canvas, Sandy. It is not. That was just a kind of a medium weight cotton poly blend, I believe. I've had that on my shelf for a little while, so I really don't remember what it is. But yeah, it had a nice medium weight to it. It would be nice to do it out of a canvas or a duck cloth. I agree. That would be a real sturdy bag. I would probably use a medium to a heavyweight fusible on that. Yeah, and you can omit the stabilizer if you use a real heavy interfacing. Mm-hmm. Yes, and they're so cool, Sandy, with the monograms. They've got some of the coolest monograms out there right now. You know, this, and you can even do both sides, where one side maybe has like a beach scene or something on it, and the other side has a monogram on it, or you make them work together or something. And there's just so much you could do. You could even do one of those continuous borders around the top if you wanted to, and just do, you know, each piece and then sew them together, and kind of try and be a little cognizant about maybe where they're going to go together when you're doing the embroidery, if the pattern matters. And then you just kind of plan it accordingly and go for it. And if you don't care, just do it. You know, it may not matter. Okay, so if you're going to do the handles without using the webbing, what you do is you take your cloth. So I'm trying to give you a good measurement. So we're going to come up with about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches wide handle when we get done. So the amount of fabric I would do, that was 21-inch long handles. And this fabric is, it's 24. So 21 to 24 you could use. It really doesn't matter. It's just a little bit longer. And then what I would do is I would cut your fabric at, we'll say 3.5 inches wide. So I'm going to cut this at 3.5 inches wide. So the nice thing about these rulers too is you've got these great little marks down the side, so you can flip them. And so here's my 3.5 here, and it runs all like this. So I take that and I set that 3.5 right on the edge of my fabric, And I know I've got 3.5 all the way up and down. Rotary. Yeah. So then you can just zip it. There you go. All right, so then what I would do, if you've got a thinner fabric, I would put a real light stabilizer on this, and you wouldn't necessarily want to run it all to the edge. I would probably just run a strip down the middle. So about the width of what your fabric is going to be. Would that work? Is that what we want to do? Thick here. Yeah, so run it around about the width that your fabric's going to be. So I would run it down the middle and cut it at about 2, let's see what did I say, it was 1 1/4 to 1 1/2. So I'd cut it at about 1 1/4. Iron that on. And then the way I do it, now there's a lot of ways that you can do this. So I'll show you 2 ways. You're going to read a lot of ways where they tell you to fold it in half and then you seam it. Or not seam it, but I'm sorry, you press it right here. So you fold your fabric in half and you press it. Then you take it back and you open it back up and you fold in to the center on each side so that it looks like this. So it's into the center and into the center, okay? So by the time, then you press that again. This is where it's fiddly. And to me, I just walk away from stuff like this a lot of times if I'm in a hurry. But if I really got a certain look I'm trying to get with a fabric, I will do it. So then you've got this, and it's seamed. I'm sorry, it's pressed. And then you fold it over one more time, and there is your handle. And then you're going to stitch right along the edge there, all the way down. And if you want, you can stitch on this edge too. I usually don't. I usually just do the one. By then I'm like, I'm fiddled out. So you can do it that way, or the way I do it, and sometimes this gets even fiddlier until you get used to doing it, is I take it to my iron and I just don't fold it in half. I just automatically eyeball where the center is and I iron, and then I do it that way again. So I still get to the same area, but I'm not quite, I'm taking one step out and then I still fold it in half. So I just took out the fold it in half, open it back up, and then do it the other way. That's the way I normally do it when I get used to doing things. And then that's how you would make those if you want to make them out of fabric. Until, if you're not feeling confident, I would just do you can buy handles even in the store and use those as well until you kind of feel more comfortable. If you feel comfortable sewing, you surely can do this. It's not hard, but it is fiddly. Yes, yeah, you have a lot of options for fabric, Sandy. That's what I love about these totes. And you can make them any size. It doesn't have to be the 18 by 14 or the 18 by 24. You can make them any size. So these are real great beginner projects because nothing is really set in stone when it comes to sizes and everything. So if you screw up a little bit and you're making it a certain size, say you're going to do the 18 by 24, and you accidentally cut it a little wonky and you got to go straighten it out. Okay, your bag just got just a little tiny bit smaller, and you just accordingly adjust the lining too, and it's still fine. So it allows for a lot of that beginner error, and it's not a problem. I keep getting this Instagram Google Chrome quote all day long about telling me the first time it snowed in Dallas, and I think it's come up like about 20 times today. And I'm like, is that all the news you got to tell me today? I've read that one how many times? Yeah, Yanni, you don't want to be here. It's a nice skating rink out there. You really don't want to be here. In fact, my wrist is still pretty swollen from when I fell earlier. Yep, you can use foam interfacing on your handles. It makes them a little bit squishier. Yep, a little stiffer, a little stronger. You can use all kinds of stuff, guys. Just let your imagination go, because on totes, you can even do one fabric on the front and one fabric on the back. You know, you can do anything. You can have a lot of fun with them. You probably could use a bias tape maker for that. I never have, but yeah, I would think you could if you had one that was a little bit bigger. Yeah, I need to go get me some of those because I do too much of that bias tape stuff the hard way. Oh yeah, Ediani, not just once, twice. Yeah, I'm hurting. I'm hurting. It's one on each side, my shoulder and my wrist. So yeah, it's not been a fun weekend. And trying to sew, doing that. I mean, I can't reach forward with one of my arms because of my shoulder. So I can only go so far. So you guys are seeing me kind of try and do clunky moves here. It's because I literally can't move. So me and ibuprofen have become good buddies. Really, really good buddies. Oh, you know, and it wasn't that I wasn't knowing the ice was out there. It was just in an area I didn't expect it because it was under my port completely. I was completely way under my port on both times. And it wasn't there before. The second time when I fell, there was no ice there when I was down there about an hour before that. And then all of a sudden it was there. And I didn't expect that. So yeah, it really was a shock. It was a total shock. I just want some snow. And then I want some warmth. Snow to make the ice stop being slick, and some warmth to make it all go away and remind me I'm down south again. Okay. Any questions, guys? I'm sorry I screwed up a couple of times there for you. Yeah, it's not hard though. Seriously, just go ahead and let yourself screw up once or twice, and you'll be fine. You can just always rip it apart and redo it. That's the beauty of a tote bag. You can rip it, and if you have to cut it just a little bit smaller because maybe you ripped in the wrong spot, it's no big deal. They are such a forgiving project, and they're so gratifying when you get done too, because you take them out and you're just like, you made that? No way, you did not. You know, it's so much fun. Yeah, I know. I don't have any Epsom salts, Ediani. That's the problem. And my bathtub's clogged up. I'm having a weekend, you know. I forgot to get me some Drano when I was at the store the other day. And I went to take a shower up where my bathtub is. And I started running some water, and I was like, oh, yeah, great. It's going to take a day for that to drain out. Yeah. And do with the play fabric first if you don't feel comfortable. Absolutely. You know, that we do, I'm sure you've heard dressmakers talk about making their muslins. Well, their muslin is their first run at the pattern because they made the pattern. And so the muslin, they are working out the kinks. And so they'll make them, and then they'll go try the muslin on the model or whoever is trying that on for size for them. And then they can adjust it real easily. Well, that's kind of what using play fabric is. You're doing a muslin of your tote bag. So you can mess with it, adjust it, play with it, screw it up, not feel like it's a bad thing. Really just not worry about it because you're not using your fabric, you know, and so you can sit down and just really get into it. It's a great idea. Good idea there. Oh, thanks, Pia. Yes, you did that feeling. It is good, Carmen, isn't it? Yeah. Project One Way is fun. It's addicting. And then the drama gets to be a little too much. And then I'm like, I'm out. And I know they do that just for the show. It's purely for ratings. I know that. You have the runway sewing machine. I've looked at that, Carmen. Those are supposedly nice. Do it from sheets. Yes. Yep. Absolutely, Don. You can do it from sheets. They're cheap. And then you can practice the handles with those sheets too, because I'm not kidding. It is fiddly the first time you do it, and it will frustrate you. So just iron, 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 iron. iron, iron. I mean, it might take you an hour to iron one handle the very first time, just because you're constantly fussing with it, because you're like, it's not something you're used to doing. It's a muscle memory thing. So once you've done it a few times, then all of a sudden it gets easier and easier and easier, because you're training your brain to think and do that way. And then once you've done it a few times, you're okay. Yep. Do your handles first when you have a full bobbin. Yeah, you don't want to run out on your handles. I've done that. I've totally done that. Yeah, draping is fun, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Oh, I know, Carmen. And you know, they make the drama happen just because it brings ratings. It brings people to watch. It's crazy. You know, I love watching for the creative part, and because I have sewn for so long, and I've done all that. You know, I've made bridesmaids dresses and flower girls dresses and all that, and I sit and I watch them, and it's kind of fun, because it's I don't necessarily always agree with the designers. And I know it's because they're a designer and they live in a different world than I do. And so I see that, but I'm like, yeah, but no. So yeah, it's always fun. And there's that silly telling me about DFW snow again. Did you guys have any questions that I missed while I was doing my stitching? Anything that you had questions about, maybe that you didn't ask? The fun totes too are made out of the burlap. Those are a blast. It frays, and so you're going to want to finish your edge with a zigzag stitch first. So you'll cut everything, and then you have to take that extra step and go in and finish your edges. And you just run that zigzag down each piece of the burlap. But then after that, oh, they turn out so cool. And you don't have to, I wouldn't necessarily do the fusible on the burlap. You can. I'm not saying you can't. But if you want a different look, take that fusible and do a light fusible and do it on the backside of the lining. And that's always another option. You could always do the fusible on the lining too. And you'll get a little different structure to your bag. It's not going to be quite as, I don't want to use the word sturdy as in thinking the bag's going to fall apart, but sturdy as in when you set it up and it can sit there by itself. It's not meant to do it that way when you do it on the lining. On the lining, it gives it a little different feel. And so the outside is a little squishier. It's just a look is all it is. Oh yeah, the avant-garde challenges, absolutely. So but back to the burlap ones, you guys can do, you can paint on them to decorate them. You can definitely embroider on them. You can HTV on them. You can do so many things, but it's fun to do, you know, the fabric paints and stuff, and do some stenciling and just write on them. And oh, you can graffiti them up. They're so much fun. No questions, guys? We got you all covered. I think I'm going to have to go and soak my hand. My wrist is not happy. Yeah, it does. It inspires people to sew. It does. I agree. You know, if they can come away from that after watching all the drama and not being turned off to it, then that's amazing. That's great. Oh, you're welcome, Pia. Yeah, I really wanted to be a little more organized today, but it just didn't happen. Just life happened, and I was not planning on having to scramble at the last second. Yeah, Ediani, definitely. If you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. You know where I'm at. This would be a real good trial for you before you do that diaper bag, because the diaper bag will be a version of the tote, and you can keep going. Thanks, Ediani. Yeah, me too. I'm just hoping I didn't do something bad to my wrist, because I know I cracked it when I was a kid, and it's the same wrist. So I'm just hoping I didn't redo something. Yeah, I'm pushing through because I want to. I'm not one of those that wants to just say, hey, this happened and I quit. If I absolutely couldn't have sewn, I would have had to postpone. But yeah. All right, guys. So if you don't have any more questions, again, I want to see these on Discord. I'm not seeing stuff you guys are making on Discord. Post. We want to see. Amber, Gabby, and I want to see what you guys are making. I know some of you are doing them. So just throw a picture out there and share with us, and let's see what's going on. Your next sew along will be Tuesday with Gabby. And those of you that missed the post, me, Gabby, and Amber have figured out all of our sew alongs through the end of March. You guys have some good stuff coming. We're really excited. So it's going to be a good 6 weeks, and then we will sit down and figure out the next 6 to 8 weeks after that. So keep sharing ideas with us as to what you want to see. We're picking up some of those ideas that you gave us last time we asked, and we're doing some of those, and then it sparks some ideas on our part too. So yeah, it's going to be a fun next 6 weeks and the rest of the year, because we're just going to keep right on and going. Yeah, I'm sure you will, Sandy. You'll have a lot to catch up on. It'll be fun though. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I know I did. I love my Sunday nights with you guys. It's a great way to end my weekend and start my next week. So shoot me questions and I will help you guys out. If not, have a good night. Stay warm, everybody.